Hello, and thank you for watching this June 20th weather update, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. My name is Eric Snodgrass, and I'm a senior atmospheric scientist and co-founder of Agrible. Well, it has been hot across the midsection of the United States for the last 10-plus days. Many locations have seen repeated days in the mid to upper 90s, and before we start talking about the impacts this will be having on corn, I have to open this week's weather video with this traffic camera that did a great job of capturing the impacts of last week's intense heat. Here we are in Minnesota on June 13, where the buckled pavement is sending cars airborne. Now, we really must get down to business though, as excessive heat during this time of year is critical for corn yields. This animation shows the surface air temperatures Monday through Wednesday of this week. In the short term, the weekend's heat in the Midwest is calmed down by a cold front that pushes through the area Monday night into Tuesday. We will talk more about the precipitation from this soon, but this front will likely bring only small amounts of precipitation along the east-west oriented boundary as it pushes southward and knocks temperatures back toward the lower 80s for most of the Corn Belt. You can see a lot of heat, though, is building in the southwestern United States and along the western Great Plains. In fact, the southwestern United States is expecting 120 plus Fahrenheit degree heat during the start of this week. But we'll keep the focus of this video on the Corn Belt. There's a lot of uncertainty in the longer-range forecasts for temperature. Both the GFS and the ECMWF, which a lot of people refer to as the European model, have not been consistent and accurate within the 7 to 16-day forecast time periods. There is one feature we must all be watching for, though. This figure shows the height field for the 500 millibar pressure surface. For those of you that are new to looking at maps like this, the contour lines are essentially thickness lines. The higher the contour value, the thicker, as we say, the layer between the surface and 500 millibar pressure is. The thickness of the atmosphere is determined by the average temperature of these layers. So here's what you need to know. Ridges in these contour lines form where there's a lot of warmth, and troughs form where it is cool. This map is valid on Tuesday night and shows a large ridge over the western half of the country while a large trough occupies the east. Now, based upon what we just discussed, it should make sense that the cooler temperatures will be occupying the northeastern part of the United States, where that trough was located, while heat will build under the ridge. This is the surface temperature anomaly forecast for Tuesday night. Look at how the heat builds in the center part of the country. Okay, let's keep this analogy in mind as we move forward. Here's the same map we saw a few moments ago. When the upper level flow pattern sets up like this in summer, we need to watch out for storm systems that form along the periphery of the ridge. I've always called these storms ridge riders, but you may have heard them referred to as the ring of fire storms. They tend to form on the downstream side of the ridge in this region right here. Now, the Storm Prediction Center is forecasting the first round of these storms on Tuesday. Here we can see they have already issued, as of Sunday evening when I produced this video, a slight risk across parts of Iowa and Illinois. Wednesday looks to be the real show, though. As of late Sunday night, the Storm Prediction Center was highlighting this region for severe weather development on Wednesday. If you live and farm in this area, please pay close attention to the sky and your weather forecasts, as models are hinting at the development of a strong line of storms to push through this area. With all the thunderstorm activity, it is very difficult to accurately pinpoint exact precipitation amounts more than just a few hours in advance. We are all very familiar with how local thunderstorm rains can be too. Some of you, I'm sure, have measured vastly different rainfall amounts across the same field after a thunderstorm event. Well, this week is no different. This is the forecast for accumulated rainfall through Thursday morning. While it shows this region getting the majority of the rain, this area of thunderstorm-induced rainfall can spread to other nearby regions while leaving some locations dry. Rainfall during this time of year is crucial for crop development, and this map shows the last 14 days of accumulated precipitation expressed as a percent of normal. It's a very busy map to read, but that is due to the locally heavy rains that thunderstorms produce this time of year. So let's focus on two things. First, the region we are expecting the midweek rain to fall from eastern Iowa through northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin and then through parts of Indiana and Ohio has had actually quite a bit of thunderstorm activity over the last 2 weeks. Second, notice how dry it has been in northern Missouri, eastern Kansas, southern Iowa, and western Illinois. Some regions in that area have not had rain in over 2 weeks. If this week's rain misses this region again, I expect crop stress levels to be high, given the heat this region has seen over the same time period. About the only bit of hope I have is that in Sunday night's model runs, well, they did have some precipitation coming to this region much later in this week, but honestly, I'm not certain of that just yet. So let's get back to talking about the warm weather. We have discussed the relative cool down for the eastern half of the Corn Belt for this week, as they return to temperatures that are closer to average. But during this time, a lot of heat builds in the west. So let's look out a little bit farther. This map shows us again the height of the 500 millibar pressure surface, but now we are looking way out as this map is valid for the 4th of July. We see a very similar pattern. A large ridge centered over the four corners with a slight trough out east. We must watch this ridge closely. If it moves east in its position over the last 10 days of this month or the first week of July, heat builds across the Corn Belt at the most sensitive time for corn, pollination. So what can we say at this time about the long-range forecast? Well, the forecast models have been consistent about one thing, and that is this semi-permanent behavior of this ridge. We can also say that this is not much at all like 2014 or 2015, where the ridging events were much more transient rather than persistent, and they weren't this strong. In fact, the flow was actually more zonal, which is from west to east, and troughs across the Corn Belt were much more frequent. So as a final statement, I know we are all watching the markets closely. Should the models trend such that this ridge moves at all to the east, it will bring heat to a large section of the Corn Belt, and I would expect the price of corn to move quickly. If it stays west or even moves further to the west, heat stress will be much less impactful on the Corn Belt. Well, as always, we at Agrible bring you the latest and best weather forecast information through our morning farm report so that you can efficiently plan your operations. We thank you for your attention and hope you look forward to our next weather video update. Thank you.